and we'll click reveal in browser. I think it's this clip right here. And we can see just how small the portion of what I've taken from this entire shot is. Now, in this shot, as one does, I've attempted this movement many times, and I didn't have the framing and the camera movement just right for most of my attempts at it. And that's the reason why we're taking selects and being as nitpicky as possible here. If you tried to just hop into editing, you may select the part of this clip that's not the best. Taking selects is one of the most important steps when it comes to video editing. This maybe goes without saying because you can't edit without footage, but all too often I see edits with average or below average shots being used for no real reason. Sure, maybe you don't have much to choose from or your shoot didn't really go as planned, but odds are your shots are a lot better than you think. You're just not taking very good selects. Taking selects not only allows you to review what you've already shot and helps you to pick out the best shots to use in your edit, but also allows you to dive into editing, get into flow state, and not have to break that flow to go back and search for clips to use. So today I decided to make this video where I'm going to give you 3 quick tips while I walk you through my entire process of taking selects for editing videos. Other than the obvious stuff like choosing footage where your subjects are in focus and the framing is good, what else is involved with taking good selects? Let's dive in and find out. Tip number 1 is to hyper-focus on movement. We all know the difference between photography and video is movement. Odds are when you filmed your footage, your movement of the camera was not perfect the entire time. There's a little bit of delay between when you turn the camera on and when you're actually filming, and then, you turn your camera off, and even most of the time you're actually taking a shot. Generally, you are not going to have great movement the entire time. Whether you're somebody who's just starting out shooting and you really don't know what you're doing, or you are on a completely professional set, this is still going to be the case. One of my favorite YouTubers, Daniel Schiffer, just released a video talking about what he calls an action window. The action window, as he describes it, is when the main movement of your subjects within the frame or the movement of the camera itself is occurring within the shot. While taking selects, you want to be sure to only select the action window and not any other parts of the clip that you don't want to use. This means going down to the literal frame and being as nitpicky as possible. Let's dive in and check out an example. All right, so here we are in Final Cut, and all we're going to do is take a couple of selects and we're going to check out what it means to be hyper-focused on the movement. Here we have some shots I took at Tao, Chicago, and we're gonna go ahead and drag this one onto our timeline. Let's go ahead and play the clip. So this is a pretty simple shot here. All it is a straight up shot of this table with the food on it with a little bit of camera movement in there. There's a couple pieces of this shot that we could use as separate selects. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my arrow keys to go over a couple of frames till this zoom in starts, and it looks like it starts right on this frame here. And it ends right about there. Click B for blade tool in Final Cut and chop this right off. So now if we check out this select we just took, that's one shot that we could maybe use once we start our edit. Let's look for more acceptable places where I like the movement in this shot. Starting right about here. And you'll notice there was a bit of shake in there, starting right about around here somewhere. Yeah, I just didn't like that little bit of shake, so we'll cut it before then. And the rest of this, I'm not too fond of. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and try this with one more clip here. Let's drag this one of a champagne pour onto the timeline. Once again, so far after playing this clip, I'm looking at about 2 or 3 different selects we can take from this clip. The first one, since I don't like this bit of camera shake at the beginning here, the first select is gonna start roughly, let's use our arrow keys again. And you'll notice just there's one little bit of timing where it comes into focus right here. And I like the lead up to that. But you'll notice the bottle's going up in the frame and then I'm moving inwards, starting around right here. So we will chop this beginning part off. I don't really like it enough to use it. And right when the glass goes out of focus, right about here, we'll chop it off. Then the other select I'll take from this clip is simply just this still of the champagne glass here with the bubbles floating up. I think that's not bad. Definitely usable for later once the focus comes back in and it's just a stable shot of the bubbles. And that little bit of camera movement there, I don't really mind. Let's check it out again. So we have a nice pour and the ending frame is in focus. So that's sort of what your eyes remember, right? It comes into focus, and then right before it goes out of focus, I cut the clip. This brings us on to tip number 2. Go through all of your footage. Don't be lazy and just take half of your footage and put it on the timeline and just get antsy and just start editing, because you never know what you may have missed. You want to be as thorough as possible and go through every single shot you have, even the ones you know are garbage, because hey, you might have something you might want to save. As I said earlier, this is where you get to review all of your footage. So with this step, I'm going to just show you my process for doing this. I'm simply going to take a clip, drag it over to my timeline, and then if you're in Final Cut Pro, you can just click automatic speed, and that will put the clip into the proper speed for that frame rate. I think this is extremely important to go through all of your footage in this way, because then you can see what it's really meant to look like in the proper speed for that frame rate. Let's check out an example as I take multiple clips from my event, drag them onto the timeline, put them into the proper speed, and then cut them to only include the action window. Going through one more clip here of these fine young ladies at the dinner table at Tao. We're gonna go ahead and drag that clip, click automatic speed like normal. See, it's an 80%. So I like her taking this piece of chicken, I think, with the chopsticks. So far, that looks pretty good. Movement in the frame is good. The focus is good. And we'll cut it right there. Now the rest of that doesn't look too great. So far, nothing happening in the frame here. Nothing great going on. Just some chewing. Okay, so now I'm going to go back. I'm going to cut all this beginning stuff out, and I'm just going to go and grab only when she grabs these noodles, and only when my camera movement as well as the movement within the frame is nice. And we're just going to take this upwards movement. I don't think I want her sort of shaking it up and down like that. I think that's a bit jarring. So I think we'll just take until she starts to do that. And again, we'll use our arrow keys here, and we'll cut it right there. Because this is when she starts to move it up and down. Okay. So out of this clip, let's see what we have. Camera movement's not bad. It's a bit shaky, but I think that's okay. Thankfully, we've filmed it in 30 frames per second, which is going to reduce a little bit of that shake if we had just shot it in 24. Last but not least, tip number 3. This is to simply not disregard any shot. So similar to what I said in tip 2, you want to be going through all of your footage, not disregarding anything. And when you're taking selects, although you do want to be very nitpicky as far as what you pull as a select, you also want to have an open mind. Don't disregard anything. Just because you know that you filmed it poorly, you should still check that shot out and see if there's anything in it that might be usable. This can include shots that traditionally wouldn't be used, like maybe you have a blurry shot and you can use that as a transition later on, like a whip pan or something like that. Maybe you were setting the camera down before you actually turned off the recording, and that ending of the clip actually is sort of cool. Taking selects, like everything else, is highly subjective, but the point here is if there's something that you see in your footage that you think is cool enough that you might potentially use in any way, drag it onto the timeline, get it in the proper speed, and leave it there, so this way when you start editing, you know you have it to use. So this is some bottle service girls holding a Tao sign. While I am going to take some selects from this clip of the sign itself, I'm going to actually take the end of this clip, and this is right when I was turning my camera off. You'll see that I click stop recording. This is the ending of the shot right here. And I'm gonna just take this downwards movement. Even though I didn't intentionally even shoot this, I think this is something later on where I could potentially use for a fade to black. I could potentially use this for a downwards transition. It's just a clean downwards movement that I didn't even really intentionally get. I'm behind the DJ stand over here, so it's pretty dark once it goes below this. So this is something that I could maybe use later on. I'm gonna leave that just in case I wanna use it. Another example of this same idea is here. We have this shot of this big statue. I forget what this guy is called. At the very end, you'll notice before I turn my camera off, I moved it away. And this abrupt movement can be good to use later on if I want like a whip pan or something like this. I've actually already used this exact clip and this exact take from this clip right here as a whip pan in a previous edit. So just this little bit right here can be helpful when you're editing. You know, you can also do things like reverse it and use this as sort of a like lead up to the take. So now since it's reversed, you know, it goes from being crazy to all clean like that. That's kind of a cool effect. All right, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video and made it this far, leave a like for the algorithm. Comment down below any types of editing tutorials you guys would like to see me make next. And also consider subscribing if you like this type of content and you want to see more stuff just like this. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in the next one.